So I wasn't planning on making a video discussing the Halo TV show because I had really low expectations for it. But after watching the first episode, I can honestly say it was even worse than I thought. I had already anticipated that there would be a lot of bad things within this show, and those things were bad, but there were some things I didn't foresee that were also pretty terrible. Now, I understand this is what they're calling the Silver Timeline. It's different from the games, and that's always going to be the justification for some of the questionable plot points within this show. But you know how I see it? Changing the timeline is just a shitty excuse to make a bad adaptation. And when people try to defend this show by mentioning it's the Silver Timeline, that's akin to when people defended Halo Infinite because it was just a beta back when it released early. You know, it's the same kind of energy. It's just an excuse. You know, people have been anticipating some kind of Halo show or movie for over a decade. And so when we finally do get this long-awaited Halo TV show, making the decision to follow a new timeline that differs from the games is absolutely retarded. And don't tell me this is something they had to do. No, they could have absolutely done a live action of, you know, the events that we played in the Halo games. And even though we know that story and we've played that, it would have still been cool for many to see it in live action. Or they also could have done something where a Marine is the main focus of the show and maybe Chief makes a couple appearances, kind of like Forward Unto Dawn. And I'm not saying Forward Unto Dawn was any good. I did watch it, but I just can't remember it at all. But you know, that is another option they had. They didn't have to make Master Chief the main guy in this show, and I'm wishing they didn't because that's not even Master Chief. I mean, it's his armor, but everything else about him it's not Master Chief. The voice, how much he speaks, taking off the helmet, it ain't Chief. With this show, it really just seems like they wanted to use the Halo name and have the, you know, Master Chief is the main character, very recognizable guy, Master Chief, but he's nothing like the fucking Chief. Like, he's nothing like the character. And I wonder if Steve Downes was willing to voice Master Chief in this show. Like, is this a case of he didn't want to do it and so they had to, you know, make do with somebody else? Or did they just not even consider him? Steve Downes is the voice of Master Chief. If it's not Steve Downes' voice, it's not Master Chief. And if you couldn't get Steve Downes to voice him, then just have him silent. I mean, that's better than what we got with this show. I'm not saying Pablo Schreiber is a bad actor or anything. It's just, that's not Chief. That isn't Chief. That hasn't been Chief for 20 years. This show just wanted to take advantage of the massive IP that is Halo, but the show itself is so different from what Halo actually is. And again, it just makes absolutely no sense that they made the decisions that they did and things don't align with the games. I mean, honestly, it's just laziness. That's what it seems like to me, laziness. You absolutely could have made a live action Halo that follows the story of the games exactly and is entertaining for both die-hard Halo fans and non-Halo fans. You absolutely could have done that. And a little while ago, there was that headline making its rounds on Twitter from Variety, where the Halo showrunner, Stephen Kane, mentioned that they didn't pay attention to the games or something like that. But then eventually Stephen Kane responded to that and mentioned how that's not exactly what he said. They did start by looking at the games, and then eventually they went to 343 directly to study the Halo lore. And when it comes to that, I don't know exactly what's true or what isn't, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they studied the games or not, because I watched the first episode, and it is a lot different from the games. There are many things in this show that contrast with the Halo canon from the games. Out of all the things I disliked about this show, and there's a lot, I think the biggest turnoff for me was the human versus human conflict. Like, it wasn't that much about humans versus the Covenant, it was more a dispute between humans. Like, in the Halo games, you're fighting the Covenant, the Flood, in the later Halo trash, you fight the Prometheans. When the fuck were we fighting humans? But yes, I know you can betray the Marines in the Halo games, but obviously that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the actual plot. And in the games, Master Chief himself is depicted as the hero, the savior. I don't know what the fuck it is with 343, where they love to make Master Chief the bad guy. What the fuck is going on there? I cannot stand when they do that. And I mean, they did it a little in Halo 4, Halo 5, and now we're seeing it in this TV show. And I don't know exactly how much influence 343 had on this show, but we've seen in their games how they've tried to make Master Chief look like the bad guy in some instances. Like towards the beginning of the show when the elites are invading and Master Chief drops down, you have the one character, Jin, start firing on Master Chief. Like he's the bad guy. You're getting attacked by elites, and you're gonna turn your back to an elite and fire on Master Chief. What the fuck am I watching? In what world is that Halo? Oh, Silver Timeline, where we're allowed to make a Halo show that isn't Halo. Yeah, great, love it. And then later on, you find out that Master Chief killed Quan Ha's mother, and then he's ordered to kill her. What? What? What the fuck am I watching? And then because Master Chief touches some Forerunner artifact at some point and has like memories of the past when he's a kid, the UNSC is ordered to restrain Master Chief. They shoot down Master Chief's fucking Pelican and then they're ready to take him in. This show is not Halo. It's not Halo, and the Silver Timeline is just an excuse for making a bad adaptation. That's all that is. They can make the excuse that they're trying to appeal to a wider audience or whatever. But you absolutely can do that and still follow the canon of the games. What? Like, why does it have to be so different to appeal to a wider audience? That makes absolutely no fucking sense. The CGI in the show was terrible. Absolutely terrible. There were some just downright laughable fucking scenes, like when Master Chief tosses his assault rifle and they CGI the assault rifle landing on the ground. I mean, CGI itself doesn't have to be bad. Like, there is good CGI, but this was just terrible CGI. We have seen much better Halo CGI and Halo live action in the past, over a decade ago. The Halo 3 Landfall live action trailer, Halo Reach Deliver Hope, the ODST one, Starry Night, the Halo 3 CGI trailer. All that shit looked way better than this Halo TV show in 2022. The Halo Landfall live action trailer is from 2007. And I get that those are short trailers that are only a few minutes. I understand that. But still, all those trailers are from over a decade ago, and they look that much better? What I saw in this TV show, is that really the best we can do in 2022? The CGI should not look that bad when you have a $90 million budget. And I believe the reason that there was a lack of humans versus Covenant is because of budget issues. I think that's why they're trying to focus on more of a human versus human conflict, because it's not as expensive. But regardless of the reasoning behind some of these decisions, doesn't change the fact that I thought this show was awful for many reasons. And where was all the Halo music and Halo sound effects? I heard a little bit in there, but that whole show should have been littered with iconic Halo music. Some of the weapons sounded off, like the assault rifle. The plasma pistol didn't behave like a plasma pistol should. The Spartan shot the elite's head off with an overcharged plasma pistol shot. Since when is that Halo? You know, I will give them something. I did appreciate the gore. I did like that. Honestly, I'd be okay with more gore in the Halo games, honestly. So, you know, that stuff was kind of cool. The Prophet of Mercy, he looked good. And Spartans looked pretty good. And I think that's about everything I liked. And those decade-old Halo live action and CGI trailers that I mentioned, when you're watching them, it just fucking screams Halo. This Halo TV show, at least episode 1 of this Halo TV show, does not. At times, you wouldn't even know you're watching Halo. In those older Halo live action CGI trailers, there were so many different Halo assets and Halo sound effects for the weapons, some Halo music. It just screamed Halo. And in the one big scene where it was Covenant versus humans, it was just elites. We didn't see any of the other Covenant besides the Prophet of Mercy. We saw him for a scene. And there's a human who I believe her name is Maki, and she's working with the Prophet of Mercy. So you have a prophet and a human together. That's another thing that just doesn't make a whole lot of fucking sense. And that might just have something to do with budget issues. I don't fucking know. But yeah, other than the Prophet, the only Covenant we saw were elites. I mean, I don't even know if I can call them fucking elites. They looked absolutely terrible. Up there with one of the worst, if not the worst, elite design I've ever fucking seen. They behaved and sounded more like brutes. One of them goes berserk mode and flips over a fucking pickup truck. And many people are comparing the look of these elites to this character from Mass Effect, and I totally see the similarity there. So yeah, these were some awful looking elites. And I don't ever remember a time in the Halo games where a Phantom comes in and just drops off elites. There might have been a time, but most of the time you're fighting multiple different species of Covenant. Elites, jackals, hunters, grunts. But all we got in this episode was elites that look terrible and behave more like brutes. We did see a jackal in one of the trailers for this show, so I'm sure we will see other species later on. But it's still just really fucking weird that in this episode 1, all we got was elites and then one scene with the Prophet. Another thing people pointed out that didn't make any sense was how when Jin was using the turret, firing on the elites, it was very ineffective, didn't really do much to the elites at all, but when Master Chief picked up the turret, he annihilated the elites. It's the same fucking weapon, and it worked for Master Chief, but not for the other guy. What? But hey, it's the Silver timeline, so maybe when Chief touches weapons in this timeline, they get some kind of a damage boost. I don't fucking know. I wouldn't doubt it. Another thing people pointed out was the scene with the plasma pistol, where the Spartan picks it up and blows the elite's head off. When the plasma pistol is on the ground, it's purple, but when the Spartan picks it up, it's just colorless, so it looks very just unfinished. I felt there was not enough action in this episode, just a lot of fucking talking. It was really fucking boring. And I'm not somebody who needs constant action in a show to be entertained. I'm the complete opposite. Some of my favorite scenes in shows are scenes where characters are just talking to each other and there is no action. But this is Halo, and a lot of what Halo is humans fighting Covenant, Flood, and again in the later games, Prometheans. And the scenes where it was just characters talking I found very boring, and I didn't like a lot of the things about them, like how the humans are having a dispute amongst themselves, and Master Chief is, just talking away, because Master Chief is so talkative. As of now, I don't really give a fuck about any of the characters. I don't care where the story is going. And again, just the fact that it's a lot different from, the Halo that we've known for 20 years is just like an instant fucking turnoff. Like, I just don't fucking care at that point. And the last thing that I want to discuss is the race swapping. Not a fan of it. It just seems real deliberate. I'd prefer if the cast matches the race of the character that they're playing from the game. Makes sense to me. In this show, they have a black man and woman playing Captain Keyes and Miranda Keyes, which obviously in the games, they're white. So yeah, I do think a white person should have played them in the show. If Johnson is in this show, It absolutely should be a black man playing Johnson. I would have a huge problem if a white dude was playing Johnson, and so would everyone else. See, that's the funny thing. Everybody that claims they're okay with this, I don't care. It doesn't matter if they're a different race. It's fine. It's fine. If they casted a fucking white dude to play Johnson, you know damn well people would have a fucking problem with it. But here's the thing, they don't have to worry about it because they know that'll never happen. So they can sit back and be like, oh, I don't care about race. No, I don't care, because they know it's more likely that they have black people playing white characters than the other way around. So they know that'll never happen, where like a white dude is playing Johnson. So they can just say, I don't care about race. But everybody would fucking care if it was the other way around. So absolutely fucking retarded, dude. But at the end of the day, I don't really care about this. So far, I think the show is god-awful, and I anticipated it would be, but it was even worse than I had imagined. I didn't think the CGI would be that fucking bad. I mean, considering we saw much better Halo CGI in live action in decade-old trailers. And so those are my thoughts on the Halo TV show. I don't know if I'll cover every episode or if I'll even talk about the TV show again. But I just wanted to make this one video discussing it because it didn't even live up to my low expectations. The show is awful, Halo Infinite is awful, and 343's time with Halo has been a disaster. And with that, that's going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching the video, and I will see you on the next one. Peace out, everybody.